What's good, Internet? We're live. Another episode of Morningwood. Your boys are back to break down all of the NBA playoff games that happened last night and today. That will happen today.
That will happen today. You're crushing words so far.
I am. I haven't had my coffee yet.
You turned into one of those guys.
Oh yeah, I'm lost without my coffee. I found, just the best coffee spot in the world. It's $1 any size. It's my favorite thing. It's a gas station. Who would have thought?
How's it feel to be 45?
God, it's coming sooner than later.
Nice.
All right. So Miami closed out Milwaukee.
Yeah, Giannis didn't play. Obviously, the injury is worse than I think you and I expected.
Yeah.
So that team is just shorthanded without him, big time. Middleton did everything he possibly can, but Middleton's not a number one guy, and Eric Bledsoe continues to disappoint.
Right. So I thought Middleton played pretty well. The numbers didn't necessarily show it. He didn't shoot particularly well, but I thought that he did what he needed to do. He was aggressive.
He's got no choice because if he's not taking those shots, then who is? He's the best option for it.
Right. I mean, certainly not Eric Bledsoe. Which brings me to this: where in the world can we send Eric Bledsoe? Where's the theme song from?
Is that a Carmen Sandiego thing?
Boom. Yep.
Is that when you watched when you were 20 when it came out in 1996? That was a 45 joke too.
I was a little kid.
That was a 45 joke.
All right, where can we send Eric Bledsoe? Because it is hard.
The only thing I looked into it briefly. So it's got to be, again, he's going to end up being a salary fill somewhere. It's the only thing to think of. I was looking Bledsoe for Terry Rozier straight up.
I don't know what that does for
either team.
Yeah, that's the tricky part with this Bledsoe stuff, because if you're Milwaukee, I mean, his contract is not super egregious or anything. It's $16.8 million for the next 3 years. So, but that's also part of the problem, because that makes him hard to trade for other players.
All right, so before I want to go down this whole path, but before we do, I just want to say kudos to Brook Lopez. He got 14 boards last night.
We
criticized the shit out of his rebounding, everything like that, and Giannis wasn't there. He stepped up and did what he had to do. But Miami's just a better team. They're, Jimmy Butler is literally being the Dark Knight. He's the hero that this city deserves. He's just filling in the gaps everywhere that he possibly needs to. Every possession, you can tell that it's almost like, what can he do to possibly try to help his teammates? It's just, if the team needs scoring, he goes out and scores. Team needs rebounding. If the team needs defense, he just is the flex hybrid that this team needs, and it just shows in every possession. So this Bledsoe situation kind of combines the Giannis talk. The Giannis talk, a lot of the Giannis talk now is, all right, well, Giannis is definitely out. The owners already said that they're not trading him. Giannis already said that he's not going to request a trade. Besides that,
we'll quote, the Giannis quote is, "That's not happening. Some see a wall and go in another direction. I plow through it."
Yeah, Giannis might be a different dude, which granted, that's great. However, besides him being a different dude, he would be insane to turn down the Supermax in this COVID situation. It would be insane of him to do that. So I don't think it's going to be the same circumstances that, for example, like the Lakers or AD or something like that. He's not turning down the Supermax at all. It would be one of two directions. It would be take the Supermax and then request the trade, or you just stick with this team and see what moves they got to make. Now, either way, you're going to take the Supermax. That just makes way more sense than anything else.
100%.
Now, okay, well, so now it's one of two things. He takes the Supermax, and they
try to trade him to OKC.
It's hard because, all right, well,
I got an OKC trade, but it's a tough road.
Well, here's the path. So, if you're the Bucks, you have this opportunity now, because I can tell you right now, Giannis is not going to take the Supermax and sit there for 5 years not making to the Eastern Conference Finals or anything like that. So that's not happening. So it's either they have to make their team better or prepare this trade for Giannis and try to get as much assets as they possibly can. So to make their team better, I mean, I'm sure you and I both agree it's got to be point guard. I just can't see a better, a position to upgrade better that fits better than they need an upgraded point guard. And the rumor, obviously, is the Chris Paul, but I just don't fucking see it. I don't know how you're getting that trade done.
So it's really hard. Like I sat and did Bledsoe trades for a while, and it's hard. So for the Chris Paul trade, one, because the problem is Bledsoe, like we said, makes a appropriate amount of money. The issue is that Chris Paul makes an outrageous amount of money.
38.
He's on the books for 41.3.
So to make that trade, you have to somewhat, but it's not just sending picks. You got to match the salaries. So the hard part with this trade that I'm sure Corey's going to break down is besides you got to somewhat match salaries. You got to be very close to the salaries matching. If you have 41 million for Chris Paul and you have 16 for Bledsoe, that's a 25 million gap right there that you need to try to somewhere make up with other players, and it's going to be really hard to do. It's not first it's making the trade work, and then it's trying to make it beneficial to why the hell would OKC do this?
Yeah, so I agree that in a scenario with Milwaukee, OKC is going to have to get picks back.
Yeah, for sure.
Scenario. So what works is Ilyasova, who expires next year, George Hill, who's got 2 years, 9.5, and then Bledsoe, 3 years, 16.8. That works.
Okay.
But the question is, why does OKC do that unless you attach picks? So I agree. You do have to attach picks, but still, what kind of pick are you getting from the Milwaukee Bucks, who, with Chris Paul, I mean, without Chris Paul, Milwaukee was the best team in the league record-wise. Chris Paul's going to, he's going to stop them from repeating that? I mean, the Bucks are going to have the best record in the league again.
Right. So why in the world would OKC take on, I forgot if you said 3 or 4 players, but 3 players, one they're stuck with Bledsoe, 2 that they're probably going to end up trying to buy out. So now they got to buy out 2 guys because they just don't have the roster spots. No teams have these roster spots for these 3 to 4 for 1 trades. So that's what makes Chris Paul really difficult to trade. So with that being said, now that's just making the trade work. Now we got to attach assets. So why in the hell would OKC rather go with Bledsoe as the helm rather than Chris Paul? Okay, well, there'd be draft capital. If you're drafting, how many top 26 picks or 26 or better or later picks would it take to do that trade? 4?
So here's the only thing.
And why does OKC need more picks? They don't have roster spots.
They don't. But the devil's advocate to that is that you're hoping that the Chris Paul thing fails.
Right.
Giannis leaves, and now Milwaukee's stuck in a rebuild, and those picks have some kind of value. Is that scenario possible? Sure. Do I think it's plausible? Not really. So the only other way to make that work, like in that iteration with Bledsoe to OKC, Chris Paul to Milwaukee, is to try to find a third team to try to make.
And these are always dicey. It's always hard to get these done.
Then it's what's in it for the other team.
Right. Well, you've noticed most of these 3-team trades, it's usually 1 player, 1 player, 1 player. It's rarely is it 4 players, 3 players, 4 players, and draft picks.
Yeah. So it's tough. I'm sure that Milwaukee's going to do everything in their power to figure it out.
They have to.
I don't think the Chris Paul to Milwaukee stuff, I don't think that's smoke and mirrors. I think that
I don't either. I just don't know how to make it work.
They just got to get creative. And considering, I think management, like I don't know what's going to happen with Bud, but I think, management, if they don't get it done next year, they're in a lot of trouble as well. So I think they're going to push all their chips into the table.
And they should. They got it. They got to trade it all.
Here's the only other Bledsoe trade that I was able to figure out. I went through all of the teams. I tried doing what teams need a point guard? Maybe the Magic. I tried. What's in it for these other teams? The only other trade I could possibly conceive of, and I still don't know if they'd do it, is Eric Bledsoe to the Detroit Pistons for Derrick Rose's expiring contract and Luke Kennard. who they're going to then have to pay. Luke Kennard would fit great on Milwaukee as a shooter. Derrick Rose, I think, is better than Eric Bledsoe. But
he probably is, but it's still this isn't putting a team over the edge.
I agree. So that was the only other one that I was like, maybe this. So this Eric Bledsoe stuff, it's gonna get hard. And if you can't move him, like, you got to upgrade the position in another way. Like, you don't necessarily have to trade him, but then you have to make it so that he's not third man up that you're relying on. Because this series, obviously, he wasn't great. I mean, yesterday he was 2 of 12, 9 points. You know, he took care of the ball, made some plays, whatever, but it didn't really impact their team in any kind of positive way. And you see, like, defenses are just tougher in the playoffs, or offenses are just tougher in the playoffs. So
yeah,
defense, especially attack as a guard, it's mitigated. He's not a big man who can cover, other players all the time. And his whole thing, like, yeah, he's a good point of attack, man-to-man defender, but a lot of his things is getting in the passing lanes, making plays there, and you're not really gambling as much in the playoffs. So a lot of his value is he's just neutered.
Yeah, and their half-court offense is horrible. Like, it's so bad. So they don't really have a great system. So they need an adult. They need a point guard in there to try to really, create an offense for them. And, I mean, I looked at the teams briefly, and I just don't see how they do it.
Yeah.
Malcolm Brogdon thing might be their downfall.
Oh, 100%. And, like, all right, so what's next? You can't trade Bledsoe. How do you upgrade the team? They have pieces that are, like, you'd have to trade to a contender for another piece that's just a lateral move. So what
about
now you're looking to move Middleton?
No, yeah, you can't do that because that makes no sense. Then you're back to square one.
Middleton, what if in the column?
What do you do, Bledsoe and whatever salary guys for Oladipo?
I just don't know
why Indiana would do that.
Why Indiana does that?
I mean,
if they're going to lose him for nothing, maybe.
Right. If you could take Oladipo and maybe get like Brook Lopez and Eric Bledsoe and like 2 draft picks for Oladipo or something like that.
But I think I would rather try to take Oladipo and put him with like Miles Turner or something and try to get something better than.
Well, there's already a lot of rumors of the Oladipo being traded.
Yeah, I think that could possibly happen. Like, but the tough part is, who is the one who should trade for him, knowing that he's going to have to get paid? Maybe Milwaukee. Maybe that.
It should be Milwaukee. They got to go all in. They cannot be cheap here.
They can't. And
if they go cheap, they should literally start figuring out what Giannis deal they want to make.
Yeah, I agree. As far as Miami goes, Spo is just so damn good. And when the game started getting, a little tight there in the fourth quarter, he goes to the Dragic Butler pick and roll with Butler as the roll man. And you put Bam in the dunker spot. And it was just super hard to guard because you got shooters, Jay Crowder in the corner, in the strong corner. And if Dragic hits that roll man, you got Jimmy Butler playing the short roll playmaker. He could either hit Bam with an alley-oop, or he could attack hard to the hoop, get fouled, get a layup. And if they go with him, you got Dragic either in a switch or you got him just being able to pull up. I mean, that's a tough thing to defend for any team going forward.
Sure.
But they were absolutely murdering the Bucks with it at the end. And Spo just doing those things, adjusting, making like that is not a typical pick and roll. You would think normally you'd probably put the ball in Jimmy's hands and let Bam set the screen and go space Dragic out. That's what a lot of coaches would do. But Spo wants to experiment and do different things that the defense is not going to be prepared for. Like the Bucks, you're not preparing for a Dragic Butler pick and roll with Butler as a screener. You are assuming that Butler is going to have the ball in his hands, and you can still get him the ball in his hands in that scenario. So Spo was really.
Yeah, I didn't expect Miami when Jimmy signed Miami. I'm like, that's a fun team. They're a piece away. I didn't expect Miami to be here. Great job. Even when Miami signed all of these weird ass contracts like Olynyk and all of them before Jimmy, it was weird. It was weird with Jimmy. Kudos to them. Apparently, Pat Riley always knows what he's doing.
Yeah, weird that Pat Riley knows better than us sometimes.
Worst trade in Knicks history.
All right, let's so Lakers Rockets was a game until like the fourth quarter when we saw the return of playoff Rondo.
Chicago's own Rajon Rondo came out and just absolutely just murdered the Rockets.
I will, till the day I die, believe that if Rondo doesn't break his hand in the Bulls Celtics series,
they go back-to-back champions.
The Bulls win that series in 5, and
then losing 4 in the next one.
Maybe, but we probably don't trade Jimmy Butler and break up this thing. It's probably looked at as a bit more of a success. We probably give it one more year and see what happens.
You're gonna not get Chris Dunn then. Did you factor that in?
I didn't, but Chris Dunn, he was runner-up to the Defensive Player of the Year teams. He was 5th in the voting in a 4-man race.
Yeah. So this game is going to come down to the bench. It really is. It's going to come down to the bench guys. It's AD, LeBron, Harden, and Westbrook had a great game. They all did what they needed to do. And because, again, it's just a mismatch of pieces playing against each other. And it's a really fun matchup.
Yeah.
The turn of the tide here is Rondo. Fucking 21 points, 8 for 11, 3 for 5 from 3, 9 boards. Like, this is, granted, this is what LeBron's team do. They always find this one guy that has a good game and they need it in a playoff series. This is what LeBron's team do. They always have. I mean, again, if you're going to, I'm not betting my life on it that Rondo all of a sudden is going to do this again next game, but there's no reason why he can't or someone else could. He just does this. LeBron just finds these guys to turn out and make big games. Rondo shooting 3 for 5 from 3 and had 2 clutch, huge threes. Just goddamn it.
I mean, Rondo, look, everybody likes to rip on Rondo, but the guy's been in a ton of big games.
He's tough.
He's been in a ton of big games, and he's won in a ton of big games. Like, Austin Rivers has not.
No.
So that's the difference. The Lakers had a guy, and Kuzma had a good game off the bench too, but really he did most of his damage in garbage time. He was fine.
So, like, we've been talking the entire bubble and last series in regards to, wow, can you believe Austin Rivers is doing this? Ben McLemore looks great.
Yeah.
Is this they just are not up to the moment, or is D'Antoni just playing 6 fucking guys and not tapping into the bench at all?
I mean, I think a little bit of both. McLemore he played 10 minutes. He didn't really do a lot, but
McLemore and Rivers both played 10 minutes each. Everybody else, which is 6 other people, played 35 or more. So D'Antoni's clearly decided that he's playing 8 guys and only really 6 because 2 got 10 minutes each.
Yeah. Well, he should cut that down to 7 because you can't play Austin Rivers another minute in this series. He's absolutely terrible. He hurts them every time he steps on the floor. Got to be rough for Doc Rivers to watch in person. I mean, they don't have like a deep team, and if Covington's hurt,
no, they're in trouble.
They're in a lot of trouble because I don't know who the next man up is.
They just have no bodies to throw at LeBron if Covington's hurt.
Yeah, it gets really tough really, really quick. I mean, they have so many guys listed on their roster that I know either aren't on their team or like are hurt or whatever, and they just don't have anybody else. I mean, they might go 5 guys if Covington's hurt. They might just be the starters, but I mean, Jeff Green had a good game. He had a good Jeff Green game.
He did, and that still didn't counter the Rondo game.
They didn't, and part of that is their defensive scheme. They couldn't stop LeBron or AD. And LeBron, and don't get me wrong, LeBron shot it well from 3. He hit 4 threes. And he shot it well from 3 the entire postseason. But Stan Van Gundy made a really good point. The Rockets weren't setting up a wall. They weren't doing the Miami Heat to Giannis, just build a wall, double down.
Build the wall!
Make the Lakers hit 3-point shots. Like, look, Rondo hit his 3s, but that's not something you're going to rely on consistently.
I'll live and die with that if you're the opposing team.
I live and die with that. I'll live and die with LeBron taking 3s instead of getting into the paint, getting into the hoop. Anthony Davis, I'd rather him, he didn't even attempt a 3. He went 9 for 13 and 8-11 from the line. LeBron got to the line 10 times. Anthony Davis
living in the paint like he's got to.
That's it. And And what happens when you get in the paint? You get free throws. I mean, Anthony Davis, LeBron James shot 21 free throws. The Rockets didn't miss a free throw, but they shot 14.
Russ played really well yesterday too. Russ kind of early in the game, Russ kind of went into his irrational confidence mode, and then you could tell he drove. There was a possession where he drove deep right to the rim, had nowhere else to go, and just jumped through a pass, and it was a nice turnover. Yeah. Then it's like it translated in his head. Oh, that doesn't make sense. I can't do that again. So he played a really well, really good game. He didn't turn the ball over. So it's going to be hard. They need bench to step up. And I agree with Stan Van Gundy if they can try to build this wall, but this is such a small team. So it being a small team, it's going to be hard to do that. They gotta keep them running and everything like that. But with the Lakers, they're playing it really smart. Like they should. They're not. There's no barely any Javal, any Dwight this series. It's just Anthony Davis being bigger, and I think that's exactly what the Lakers need to do is exploit their strength. Kind of what we discussed yesterday.
Javal shouldn't play another minute in the game either.
No,
he doesn't need. They don't need to do we're going to start him and only play him 6 minutes. They just from the jump.
He's the starter.
They just, what's up, everybody in the chat? What's happening? Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you retweet all that. We appreciate you guys. They just have to. The Rockets, I think that they need to force the Lakers to become outside shooters. Because
they got it. How fun was it watching? How fun was watching Stan Van Gundy? They were showing the highlights of LeBron hitting the game winner in 09.
Oh, yeah.
She's watching him die inside. He's still not over that, and
and he shouldn't be.
I remember watching that game, and I was so fucking mad.
Granted, the Magic won that series.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shot was unbelievable. But Stan Van Gundy's great. He's great in the booth.
Yeah, I like Stan Van Gundy more than Jeff.
He's a lot less pessimistic.
Whiny. Oh.
How much do you think the Bucks defensive scheme?
I mean, it's hard. Giannis is their defensive scheme.
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously they struggled even with Giannis to stop Miami from doing what they're doing. But the problem is it's not necessarily that the defensive scheme is wrong. It's that they don't switch things up enough.
That's been Budenholzer from day one.
And when you're not switching, like, something will work until it doesn't. Like, in the playoffs, you're seeing the same thing over and over, and it starts becoming a puzzle. Where in the regular season, you're playing a team once, and then you're not thinking about them again for another month and a half. You're on to the next thing. You don't have time to game plan, and then you go back and be like, oh, this is what they did last time. But maybe they're doing something like in the playoffs. If you're just doing the same thing over and over again, NBA players are too smart to not figure out how to break the code eventually.
I think when we get to draft time, I'm going to create a separate account that I can just talk to you in chat, name it like Bulls Fan 7, and be like, I'm really in on LaMelo. I think it's a great fit, and just have an argument with you through the chat.
I'm already trying to talk myself into LaMelo as a good player. That way I'm not disappointed on draft night, which could possibly be in November now.
I saw that. It's still really quick. It kind of – free agency is a day you always look forward to in the summer, and it's kind of just going to be there immediately.
Yeah, it's weird. It's going to be everything's weird. I have no idea how much longer and how many more prospects I could possibly even scout at this point. I don't know. At this point, I'm watching tape on.
I really hope the Bulls go after this guy at 45.
I'm watching tape on this kid right now who was really hyped up. He was supposed to be the lottery pick during the year, is Nico Mannion. And like he kind of disappointed. He didn't shoot it that well during the season. And he's like this dude from Italy with red hair, and he's completely fine. And I'm like, I had a thought last night. I was like, so is his upside like prime DJ Augustine? Like,
oh God!
Like that's where I'm at watching prospects at this point. That's what we're hoping for. Do you think it even matters what team comes out of the East for the final? Shout out, Fern.
I think so. I think so for big time. I mean, I think the Celtics, them against they just have more weapons. I mean, you could see these teams, the Lakers, Rockets, Clippers, they're just not deep, and the Nuggets can be defended. Don't want to hurt their feelings, but these they just don't. They're just not deep. This is what happens when you have two stars. The Celtics for sure have way more bodies to throw at all of these teams. The Raptors can play basketball with anyone with their deep lineup. I think the depth is so much more. Miami, obviously, they can cover anybody. They have so many guys throw at LeBron, Kawhi, anybody. They just have more bodies across the board where you got to go, you're not banking on Rondo shooting 3 for 5 in a fourth quarter or something like that. It's just I think the East has just way more depth in their teams versus anybody in the West.
Yeah, I think
it's supposed to be the Nuggets, but the Nuggets, you've shown that you can't rely on their scoring.
I mean, we'll transition to the Celtics now because I think it's a good transition. I think the Celtics are going to close out. I think that the Celtics and the Heat, though.
Well, where's the banner?
I think the Celtics and the Heat are very, they're very similar in the kind of players that they have with all the rangy wings.
Good coach. They can switch everything. It's just it is very similar.
Yeah, I guess you would say that Miami's probably more apt to handle Anthony Davis.
They're bigger.
Miami, Bam. I trust Bam more so, in a situation where Miami and the Lakers made the NBA Finals. I trust Bam to handle Anthony Davis a little bit more than Daniel Tice.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think they just have so many bodies.
With that said, I trust Jason Tatum to be able to put up 30 consistently more than anybody on Miami.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess that's kind of what we're seeing with Harden. They just have nobody else to, they need bodies to defend. With with Miami, you have, Crowder, you have Iggy, you have Butler. You have so many bodies to go try to cover, any of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think that either of those teams are going to be fun in the finals. I don't want to count the Raptors out. They're only down one game.
No, I think the Raptors, if they can pull this game out, it's a real series. But again, the same story we've been saying since the beginning of the series. The Raptors have to hit difficult shots. It sucks. But Lowry and Van Vliet need to play every minute of this game. They cannot come out. They have to, and unfortunately, they're just stuck making hard, difficult, contested shots. It's either transition threes with a defender coming at them. It's really hard for the Raptors to get open and get easy shots. There's no easy buckets for the Raptors. It's all difficult. While the Celtics, it's easier for them to score. If they're on, the Celtics are going to win. If they're off and the Raptors are hitting, that's the hard part, is that the Celtics can be off and still win. Right. The Raptors have to be hot.
The Raptors have to play to the peak of their potential to win the game, whereas the Celtics just have to play well. They just need to execute and do their stuff. And a lot of that falls on the fact that the Raptors have to rely on Lowry and Van Vliet because Siakam has been totally taken out of the series.
We're not sure if Ibaka's playing, right?
We don't know if Ibaka's playing. I personally, he was in a walking boot 2 days ago.
Sure.
That doesn't seem like a great sign for somebody who needs to contribute. So that's another thing. They're down Ibaka. That's going to hurt them even more. And like we said, Siakam, who would you rather? Everybody shits on DeRozan, but who'd you rather have right now in this series, this Game 6, Game 7? Siakam or DeRozan? You'd rather have DeRozan.
DeRozan get a basket, I'm sure of that.
Siakam needs to figure out a move besides back somebody down and take a weird post move that looks like Larry in a rec league. And he needs to have a game where he gets in the 20s efficiently and puts pressure on the defense. If he doesn't do that, the Celtics are going to close out. And I don't think he's going to. I think the Celtics are going to close out tonight. And I think Miami and Boston is going to be a really, really fun Eastern Conference Finals. And Celtics are favored by 3.5. So Vegas thinks it. I think it. And we'll see. Because a lot of times when I think something, I'm wrong.
It's just going to be one of those things I feel like you'll be able to tell within the first quarter. You'll see, are the Raptors hitting these tough shots or are they missing them?
Yeah, because Lowry's going to come out guns blazing.
Yeah.
Because do or die, and that's, he loves the underdog role. Clippers, Nuggets, man, I think the Clippers go up 3-1. I think the Nuggets really, really screwed up letting that game slip away.
Yeah, they they're not in a position to let any game slip away. They just don't generate enough offense. The Clippers too good at defense. Nuggets are not good enough at offense. Jamal Murray is just being locked down. I think it's going to be really hard for the Nuggets to win this series because it's just a lack of offense they're able to generate. Jokic, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is just funneling Jokic. He should touch the ball every single possession, get down low. I want him to be a little bit lower on the block rather than playing, or even on the Dirk free throw line area rather than playing a step in front, inside of three. I want him to be closer to the basket when he's touching the ball. Clippers, I just want to see that they have this light switch is just on all the time.
Yeah.
Paul George consistently have good games in a row.
Like, they shouldn't be down. The Clippers shouldn't be down 7 at halftime.
No.
Come back. They should just put their foot on the gas and be like, oh, we're almost at the conference finals. The time is now. Here's a Jamal Murray stat. 3 games in this series. How many free throws has he shot?
Oof. 6.
7.
Ooh.
He shot 7 free throws in 3 games. And that's the thing. Jamal Murray wants to be a superstar. Go get to the line. Even against Utah, he only had 1 game above 5 free throws. And it was the closeout game. He shot 7 of 9. Even when he was blazing hot, putting up 40, 50 points, he wasn't getting to the line. That's not what he does. Superstars get to the line. He needs to get to the free throw line. It can't be 0 for 0 or 2 for 2. He's got to get to the line 7, 8 times. Make a concerted effort. We know you can get hot, but guess what? If you're not hot, like you're 5 for 17 in the last game, what do you got to do? You got to stop jacking shots up and figure out how to get contact and get into the line. So that, and like you said, getting Jokic a little bit more down low. I have Jokic will bring it. I have total faith in him to having a big game and making an impact. But again, he's another guy. It'd be nice if he shot some free throws. All these teams that are primarily jump shooting teams, like, you got to get to the free throw line. You are not. Sure. You're not Clay. You're not capable of.
Even they get to the free throw line.
They do. They do. And you added in Durant, good teams, championship level teams get to the free throw line. The Celtics get to the free throw line. The Heat get to the free throw line. These good teams get to the free throw line. You're not anything more than a second round team if you're a team that can't get to the free throw line. And we're seeing that with the Nuggets, and we're seeing it with the Raptors. So yeah, I think the Clippers go up 3-1. But with that said, what's your best bet for the night?
I think it's got to be. I'm going to go with Boston as well. I'm sure you're taking that. So Boston minus 3.5 to close it out. It just, to me, is the best gamble on the paper in regards to, I just think the Celtics, if the Raptors are off, the game's not close.
I agree. I'm taking Celtics minus 3.5 as well. I love watching that team play.
Me too. And I hate the fucking Celtics. But yeah, they're just fun. They're just a good team. There's no one I dislike on that entire team.
It's hard to hate on that team. It's hard to hate on Stevens, the whole organization. I just don't like that the history in the green.
It's a Knicks rival, or I think the Knicks think they're rivals. It's just not.
They're always the team that the Bulls could have beat had Rondo not broke his hand in the playoffs.
Just to get swept by Cleveland in the next round.
We played them really hard, really tough the year before that. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Morning Wood. And we will be back tomorrow around 9-ish. Hopefully, we'll see. I go back to work. So we're going to see what exactly time, but it'll be in the morning. I'll tweet it out when we figure out what time we're going to be going live tomorrow. And, enjoy the games tonight. We out.